Stasiland indeed. Chapter 18 then, if you please. And this one's called The Plate. And of course it becomes very significant. So if you want to, it's a cataphoric reference. Sort of flash forward really, a bit of catalepsis to what this plate is, which becomes very significant for our man Koch. Right, so we start off with a time marker in 1985, so we get that sense of progression, sense of movement forward all the way, which is reasonable. It sort of shapes the narrative and shapes the book, doesn't it? So it's understandable. And ultimately, we know that by the end of this book, we're going to be, at present day when Anna Funder or even just Funder is writing this. So without any further ado, let's crack on then, shall we? My phone's about to die, but never mind. Let's see if I've got enough to get us through to the end of this chapter. Let's give it a go.
Mr. and Mrs. Koch remarried.
The
Stasi
chapter.
subjected him to disciplinary proceedings on account of inconstancy, and in their files attributed the remarriage to the repeated negative influence of Frau Koch. Chapter 18. The Plate.
Here we go.
In 1985, Heinz Koch died. His sister, who lived in Hamburg, West Germany, received permission to attend the funeral. Because she was coming, Hagen was forbidden to attend. This was more than he could take. He applied to leave his regiment. He would have liked this to be a final small defiance, a little signal of up yours at a time when no harm could come to his father, and he didn't have much to lose. But it was merely a transfer out of the Stasi and into the regular army, under condition of maintaining Stasi secrecy. They were going to let him leave, and it made him feel empty. He sat in his office. There are strange moments where the present already belongs to your past. Your last day at work, for instance, when problems and politics there become a tale told in the third person. Koch looked around his office as if it belonged to someone else.
Yeah, so an interesting sort of meta-textual reference here about the use of perspective in third person, and it's particularly no coincidence that someone like Funder would use a reference like that quite knowingly. That line there where the present already belongs to your past is quite a powerful one, I think, and it's almost a poetic idea. So it's very Funder style of writing. And of course it's just his last day at work, but she's making it more grand. It's sort of inverted. What's that noise? Oh, sorry, the printer's going now. It's sort of inverted bathos, really, isn't it? Because she's making something which is quite insignificant in a way, quite insignificant. She's making it quite grand. Just one of those moments where you know that what's happening now is something you'll be thinking about for a long time. So it's when your present becomes the past. But I think just the plosive alliteration makes it sound more grand as well, perhaps. But it's a very poetic way of describing it. I like that.
Everything in the room was to stay there. His replacement would come in, and no one would know the difference. He was interchangeable with any other uniform and bad crew cut. It made him angry to think he would leave no mark here, and it made him angrier still that, even if he had his time again, he suspected he wouldn't have had the guts. The wall opposite him had an unhealthy sheen of old paint, and so did the plate pinned on it. It was an award for cultural work by his unit, 3rd place. It shone like gold, but it was made of plastic, covered in metallic paint like a cheap toy. It was not something he could say he himself had won. Nevertheless, Koch closed his office door, got up on his chair, and slid the plate from its hooks. He was surprised how light it was. His briefcase wouldn't close over it, so he took off his vest, draped it over the bag, and held the handles together. He walked out of his office, said goodbye to the assistant, and didn't come back. "My little private revenge," he says. "That plate," he looks straight at me, "was all I had the courage for."
So now we have got some bathos. This is what it comes down to. His career in the Stasi has come down to taking a plastic plate off the wall as a souvenir, and so this real sort of it becomes quite tragic really for him, but then also it becomes heightened when we learn that this plate means so much to the GDR and later to the FDR as well, who want to reclaim it. So we've now got that reference. We've now got it now becomes an anaphoric reference back to the chapter title, and it's sort of like it's the punchline of the setup that the chapter title gave us. This is the plate, and it's a bathos effect because we thought it was going to be more grand than that, and actually it's just a cheap plastic plate. Just worth picking up on the simile there. Metallic paint like a cheap toy, and it's sort of the whole idea of it's like a gilded. It looks like it's been painted. Well, it has been painted gold. It's been made to look more precious than it is. It's sort of I don't know, quite symbolic, isn't it? Or resonance of the GDR possibly itself, and sort of covering things up. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let's push on a bit further. See if I can find any more nothings out of somethings, or somethings out of nothings.
3 weeks later, there was a knock at his apartment door. The head of Koch's old Stasi section stood in the passageway. He was still being collegial. "The plate is gone." "What?" "You heard me, comrade. The plate is gone. The commandant wants the plate back." "What do you know?" Koch said to him, leaning on the open door. "As soon as I'm gone, the whole place falls apart. As long as I sat in that chair, that plate hung on the wall." "Come on, Koch. It can't have just disappeared. At the Ministry for State Security, nothing just disappears." "I'm afraid I can't help you." Koch closed the door. The commandant established a working group on plate reprocurement. Koch was summoned back to headquarters for interviews and required to give a statement. He hid the plate in his kitchen. A short time later, they sent in bigger guns. The district attorney came by. "Where's this plate?" "I don't know." "I'll need a sworn affidavit to that effect." "Fine by me." Nothing further happened. 1989 came, the wall came down, and Koch started to build up his archive. He retrieved the plate from behind the sink pipe and pinned it up in his study. Now it was a real trophy.
So it's a metaphor, isn't it? The idea of being a trophy. It's just a plastic plate, but it symbolises so much more. And I was just toying in my head whether it was a synecdoche or a metaphor. I think it's just safe to say it's a metaphor. Because, of course, what is a trophy? It's a trophy is just a sort of symbol, isn't it? A metaphor of success in a way. So this trophy is become a real trophy and represents his revenge, if that's the right phrase, or rebelliousness against the Stasi, I suppose. Bear with me, my phone's gone off again. Oh, what a nightmare this is! Absolute nightmare. It's a nightmare scenario.
In 1993, a television crew came to interview him. Germany was reunited, and East Germany was a place in the past. The interviewer went through his questions before they started to shoot, so Koch would be prepared. But he was already prepared, because they were all the usual questions. Do you regret your time with the Stasi? What is your connection to the wall? Is that what made you establish this wall archive? Koch could see the strapline already. Stasi man keeps wall alive at home. He thought how easy it is for an interviewer to assume moral superiority by virtue of the fact he gets to ask the questions. Even in this new Germany, these weren't really questions about how the regime possessed people, and his weren't really answers. Koch would dutifully tell the story of his upbringing. The interviewer was ready to roll and had started the cue in when the cameraman called, "Stop!" The crew relaxed their shoulders. "What's up?" asked the interviewer. "I need that plate down. It's reflecting in my lens." The interviewer motioned for an offsider to step around Koch and take it down, but Koch stood up. "He tells it to me as a moment of glory." "No," he said. The room fell silent. "I don't care what you want from me," he continued slowly. "I will do whatever you ask. I will turn everything in this apartment upside down. I will sing the national anthem if you want, but that plate stays there." The interviewer was puzzled. Here was a man who had worked for the firm for 25 years and who now had the gall to try and make a living talking about it. A shameless moral gymnast reperforming his capitulations for the camera. And he was drawing the line at a plate? Koch remained standing. "That plate," he said again, "stays there." Okay. Koch sat down. The interviewer knew when to say nothing. Koch started to tell the whole story. His theft, the establishment of the working group on plate reprocurement, the interviews and statements, the threats and fuss. Koch said he didn't realize that the camera was rolling. The way he tells it, he didn't mind that it was.
Just a quick point there. The asyndetic list there, isn't there, of his story, his theft, the establishment of the working group on plate reprocurement, the interviews and statements, the threats and fuss. And I think just that use of that bureaucratic language there, and that's not funders' language, that's, of course, that is the wording of the Stasi, but it's so ridiculous. The working group on plate reprocurement is fantastic. I mean, what a waste of time. And that's, that's how it's been presented here, isn't it? Is in amongst this chapter has been quite absurd, really. Just reprocuring a cheap plastic plate. It's bizarre.
The programme was made and broadcast. Several days later, the doorbell rang at Koch's apartment. 2 men showed their wallet passes. Treuhand. This was the body set up after the regime collapsed to oversee the fire sale of East German state-owned enterprises to the private sector. Herr Koch, we've come for the plate, said one of them. What? This was unified Germany, westernized and democratic Germany, and still someone wanted that plate. Pursuant to the Treaty of Reunification between the Federal Republic of Germany and the former German Democratic Republic, all property belonging to the latter is vested in the former. That plate was rightfully property of the GDR and is now property of the Federal Republic of Germany. We are charged with its collection. Get out. We are willing to turn a blind eye to the manner in which that plate came into your possession, Herr Koch, provided you return it immediately. Koch was incensed. Get out of my apartment. If you want the plate, go get a court order for it. Without an order, you're not coming in. No one takes the plate. So it came in the mail. Criminal proceedings were issued against him. The indictment charged him with theft of GDR property. Still Koch did nothing. Not long afterwards, there was another knock at the door. It was the same men again. Excuse us, Herr Koch. I am pleased to inform you that the allegation of theft has been withdrawn. In the first place, on account of triviality. The plate was worth only 16 Eastern marks. In the second place, because of the statute of limitations for such crimes. The allegations concerned an act which took place 8 years ago and are therefore barred. Koch looks at me closely. However, the officer said, new proceedings have been issued against you. Oh? For perjury. Get out.
More stickomythia here, just to, I suppose, to present the awkwardness and the abrupt, clipped nature of the Stasi's investigation and the conversation there. So that's stickomythia. We've seen it before, of course, with the conversation with him and about his wife and the pornography in the last chapter. But these awkward confrontations that are had with the Stasi. I hope the speed's okay. It's very fast, isn't it, the way in which it's being read on the audiobook, but I think it gets through it faster. Well, it does obviously get through it faster, so hopefully it's okay.
The official put his foot in the door. I'm afraid, Herr Koch, that it is alleged that on the 14th of June, 1985, you swore in an affidavit to the Ministry of State Security of the former German Democratic Republic that you did not know the whereabouts of the plate in question. That is an offence against the law then in force in the GDR, and it is the responsibility of the new Germany to ensure prosecution of crimes which occurred in the former GDR. I'm laughing by now. Koch goes on. I said, bravo, terrific, well done. Can't you people make up your minds? Do you want to see me punished because I worked for the firm, or do you want to see me punished because I worked against the firm? What is it exactly you want? He's laughing now too. This is his moment. The man who drew the line and who sat on the fence pulls some righteousness from the post-war rubble.
So that metaphor there, this is typically a funder, isn't it? Of finding some metaphor, and it's quite a powerful one here. So pull some righteousness from the post-war rubble. It's a very fitting one that, he now can, now the wall is down, he's able to exercise his demons in a way, isn't he, and expose what happened. And so it's that very real sense of pulling something from the rubbish and the dust and salvaging his reputation as such, or his dignity, or his honour, or whatever you want to call it, really. But he's trying to do something to put right those 25 years of work that he did for the Stasi.
Did the trial come about? I ask him. No, but all these allegations did quite a bit of damage. My wife lost her job because of them. The rumours were pretty bad, and they took on a life of their own. You know, Koch is a thief, a liar, a perjurer. He pauses and leans towards me. I can smell him again, warm and piney. He says, you know, though, it was worth it. All the courage I had is in that plate. The whole shitty little skerrick of it. That's all I had. That plate, he says, pointing behind him, stays there. Beep. Hi, Miriam, it's Anna. I'm keeping this upbeat. Just thought I'd call to say hello. I'd love to catch up. I've been having some odd adventures in your old country. Curiouser and curiouser. I've a lot to tell. Anyway, I'll call, or you can reach me. I leave my number. See you.
So just a narrative shift here to show that the interview with Koch is over, and she's leaving a message on her answer machine. That, I mean, it's just a small point, but the use of that time marker there with the beep shows that time has passed, and it's a holophrastic sentence, and it's almost, well, it's onomatopoeic as well, isn't it? So it's a holophrastic onomatopoeic time marker. There you go. Just to show that time's moved on and that it's the sound of the answer machine. And also it's a bit of a narrative hook because it suggests that the narrative will take a turn. It's seeding the conversation she'll have later with Miriam. So it's just giving that narrative progression. As one lead comes to an end, it's providing us with something else to latch onto.
Herr Koch gave me Stasi diagrams and photographs of the border installation at Bonhomer Strasse. "Top secret!" he cried gleefully as he made copies of them on the machine in his hallway. A day or two later, I have them rolled in my pocket as I walk from my apartment to where Miriam climbed over. I also have the sketch she drew. The place where she was caught is marked with a gash of blue ink. I want to see what it looked like to her. I want to place these pictures over what's there now, as if to bring the past into some kind of focus. It is muggy today. Everyone has been burning their heaters without pause for weeks, and the clouds are low and tinted with coal dust. I take breaths of this orange sky as I walk.
Bit of a back to the olfactory senses, or certainly the sensory imagery there of the orange sky and the tinted with coal dust. It's sort of this idea of breathing things in, and something that she's used before and uses again in this book.
The first thing I reach is the garden colony. A path leads through the plots, each one fenced off from its neighbour with cyclone mesh. There are small huts on them for garden tools and seeds, for barbecue grills and folding chairs and ladders.
Maybe just me, but there's something about the allotments there, the plots being fenced off from its neighbour. I don't know, is that a symbol? Is it symbolic of the history of the GDR and Berlin and Germany itself? Is it a synecdoche possibly for Germany itself? Who knows? Maybe it is. It's up to you, isn't it? It's interpretive, but I think it's just an interesting coincidence, I suppose, that even the plots are fenced off from its neighbour, and it's sort of personified, isn't it, with its neighbour? I think there's something in it there. I don't think I'm just being weird, although it's possible, but I think there's something in that being personified as a sort of fenced off and protected or isolated from its neighbour.
There are a few larger trees, but mostly there is just sodden black earth arranged in rectangles, waiting for a lick of sun to bring up vegetables and flowers.
It's a nice metaphor, isn't it? A lick of sun to bring up vegetables and flowers. Interesting the way she describes nature, I think, in this book. When we get to the end, we pull together the examples of how she presents nature and how she presents humanity. It's very interesting and often very positive descriptions of nature. A lick of sun to bring up vegetables and flowers. He's got energy and, I don't know, vibrancy, excitement maybe with that one. Whereas we get, quite downplayed and sort of low tempo descriptions of humanity, if that's even a phrase. But you know what I mean, sort of quite depressing and down in some cases.
These are squared off places for contained fantasies. In one plot, I find Snow White and her dwarves, 2 fawns and 2 portly gnomes, all cohabiting peacefully with an almost life-sized sow and her 3 fat piglets.
Never want to pass up on things' appearance. Of course, she's even describing the little pigs as 3 fat pigs. Just makes me think of fairy tales now. Yeah, just an interesting, unflattering image there, just of how she tends to look at fats and sort of, I don't know, overweight things. Maybe it's just a coincidence, I don't know.
Between the garden plots and where the wall was, there's a wider stretch of grass and then an embankment. I climb up to another cyclone fence and look through at the mess of railway lines and small walls. This fence is old and rusted. I wonder whether it was the same one Miriam climbed. To my left is the bridge, where she thought the guards were watching her, and where, 20 years later, 10,000 people thronged on a single night to get through to the west. I hold up a black and white photograph with one hand and the Stasi diagram with the other. Technical improvements on the national border to Berlin, west. I want to see where the second fence, the sand strip, the tank traps, the guard towers, the light pylons, the dog run and the tripwires were. They are all gone. Then I remember that they were in front of the railway lines. They must have been in the stretch of grass I walked over between the garden plots and where I am now standing. I take out Miriam's sketch. It is a few lines on a page, for walls, for the kink in the wall where she stopped to breathe and lock eyes with the dog, for the tripwire where she was caught. My hands are blue as I hold the paper up to the rusted diamonds of wire. I wonder if I'm in the right place. Miriam said the bridge was about 150 metres away from where she crossed. I move to my right till I think I'm in the same spot. 2 trains cross. The rhythm of their wheels fuses and then parts again.
That's a very poetic phrase, isn't it, as well? The rhythm of their wheels fuses and then parts again. I don't know, maybe is that intended to make us think about people in the book, characters in her life, people in her life, Miriam possibly? I don't know. But there's just something about it just, again, it's quite poetic, I think. At the very least, I'd write that it was quite poetic and figurative description. 2 trains cross, the rhythm of their wheels fuses and then parts again. It's quite sad, isn't it? Is it? I don't know. I feel like it's quite sad. But then I think everything is sad, so it's hard to know, really. But it feels quite poignant to me, like it's some sort of 2 people crossing and sort of meeting and then parting. Never to see each other again. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, that's all for that chapter. There's nothing else to say about the little bit there. I'll let it play to the end anyway, and then I'll play you a little song. I talked about Nightmare Scenario earlier, and I'll play you a little song by John Shuttleworth all about nightmare scenarios. So you're welcome for that. See you later.
When they are gone, I peer at the railway lines. There are at least 6 of them, shunting trains from north to south and back. Then there's an earth-retaining wall, not particularly high, but the ground behind it is at another level. Is this where she climbed? I look for a kink, and I find one. Was that where she crouched? It starts to get dark. The street lights on the bridge glow their sick yellow light. I roll up the photo and the diagram and Miriam's drawing and crumple them into my pocket. I put my fingers through the wire and hang onto the fence for a while.
Two margarines on the go, it's a nightmare scenario.
So there you go, 2 margarines on the go. What a nightmare scenario. One of my favourites, that John Shuttleworth. Worth a look if you get the chance. Oh yeah, I was meant to ask you as well, not that you can answer on here, but there's a little intertextual reference there, wasn't it, in that chapter? It's on, page 182 in my copy. It's not the last page of the chapter, but the page before. The one that's got the break where it goes to the answer machine message. There's an intertextual reference there. Here's the question. What is that intertextual reference, that exophoric reference? What text has been referenced on that page at the book? That's a fun little game, isn't it? So I'll leave that with you, and I'll see you again for chapter, is it 19 next? Chapter 19. Klaus. Or is it Klaus? Klaus, I think it is. Klaus.